Hi, ladies. This is exciting for me because this is about what Women's Sphere does and what, Annalisa, you've just been doing so well for so long. I almost feel like none of us need to say anything. We just need to say, follow her playbook. But I'm honored to be able to be one of the women here to speak today. The theme of my conversation is going to be a little different at the request of Annalisa. I'm actually almost mimicking a speech that I gave a while ago at another Women's Sphere event. And it's simply themed, Never Be Afraid to Be the Real You. Now, I've listened to some of my partner's defining moments. Mine's a little different. It didn't happen at work. It happened at home. So what I'm going to talk about is a boyfriend who helped me make a real transition in my life. I don't know how many of you women do the thing that I was doing, and that was to make sure that I was beautiful when I went to bed and then get up really early and make sure I was beautiful before my boyfriend woke up. But I did. And I had a thing about my hair. If I was at home, I wore a scarf to bed at night. It just made sense. I had long, straight hair, and I had to wrap it all around my head and then put the scarf on and then wake up and suddenly be beautiful in the morning. And he didn't know that. And a year and a half in, he still didn't know that. And then there finally came a point where I had something really important to do the next day, and I needed to really sleep in my scarf. And we talked about it, and he asked me why I hadn't been doing it all along, and basically why I hadn't just been being the real me. He didn't mind the scarf. He didn't mind me being who I was. And as odd as that may seem, it really was a very serious defining moment for me. That boyfriend is the same boyfriend who helped me make the journey from having a job to finally figuring out a career path. And to that point, I didn't honestly know the difference. I had had a few jobs, amazing jobs, working for some wonderful people, but I had not figured out my own career path. That all set me on a journey to creating something in my life that I called my basics. I have 7 of them. And what I realized is that I had to get back to the basics, things that I learned from the time I was a young woman, things that my grandmother had told me, that my mother had told me, and that I thought, you know what, they don't really know what they're talking about, because from the time you're like, what, 5 years old, your mom really doesn't know anything. She doesn't know fashion, she doesn't know music, she doesn't know boys. She's a mom. But my mom and my grandmom, it turns out, knew everything. My basics, basic number 1, tell the truth. Grandma used to say it all the time, tell the truth. What I had to learn was to tell the truth, though, to myself, about myself. I had to learn when I was giving myself an examination about myself, instead of the automatic A that most of us tend to give ourselves, I had to learn to take a deeper look, really take a deeper look at myself and figure out, was I really an A? Maybe I was only a B+, maybe I was only a C in whatever category I was working on at the time. The most important truth for me, though, was that I was at a period in my life where I was telling myself that people were holding me back and they were not allowing me to do certain things. And the truth was I was holding myself back and I was allowing people to hold me back and to do certain things to me. So when I figured out that truth and I was able to tell it to myself about myself, that part of my life changed. My basic number 2, be obedient. Another thing that my grandmother had to tell me, because I sure didn't listen to my mom on that one. Obedient for me as an adult, though, meant stop doing the things that you just know you shouldn't be doing. Stop placing yourself in situations where you know you don't belong. For us, that means you don't belong in any place where you're abused, physically or mentally. And lots of times in the workplace, mental abuse is something that we don't act against often enough. You don't belong any place where you're disrespected. You don't belong any place where you are not loved, where you are not nurtured, and where your value is not understood. If you start to understand your own value, then you'll understand to be obedient to that rule. Don't stay any place where you're not valued. My basic number 3, don't ever be afraid to leave a situation sooner than later if you feel that you're in an environment that is not allowing you to grow and to succeed, and most importantly, to be happy. Basic number 4, accept the fact, especially in the workplace, that not everyone wants what is best for you. Everybody's busy figuring out what's best for themselves. But you need to figure out what's best for you, and you need to get on your path and stay on your path. My basic number 5, and to me, guys, this is the most important. You're a woman first. Put your life in order. For me personally, I had my life in what I call an upside-down pyramid. And sometimes I'm leery about whether or not I should jump into this part of things, but it was important to me. It worked for me. My order for my life was work, family, God. When I flipped the pyramid around and I put God, and we can call it spirituality, I put God, family, work, and you can put education, on that work line, my life really did change. It changed in drastic ways. When I got that order right, there was all of a sudden discipline. There was spiritual practice in the morning, and there was spiritual practice at night, even if it was as simple as making sure that I got up early and I meditated, or I just sat still and I just had that conversation with God that was going to clear things out of my head and just get me on my way that day. And then understanding that you have to make sure that your family knows that they are the real priority, that the work that you're doing that you make so important really is all about them and the life that you want to provide for them and the example that you are trying to set for them. So God, family, work. That my basic number 5, understanding that I'm a woman first, meant God that's in me, and my relationship is about who I am and how I got put on this earth. I got put on this earth as a woman. I don't want to be a man. I don't want to be anything but what God chose for me to be. And then family, and then work. You have to be disciplined about those things. My basic number 6, another really hard one, learn to let go. I can remember having to learn to let go of toys, having to learn to let go of pets, whether we were giving the pet away or whether the pet had passed away. But learning to let go is really hard. But you must learn to let go of what is not meant for you. Sometimes that even means a position. Most of the time when you have to learn to let go of a position, it really is because there is something bigger and better for you that maybe you can't see yet. But you just got to be brave enough to understand that there's not really a ceiling. Not really a ceiling. So don't be afraid to let go. Learn to let go of what has not been brought into your life by what I call divine order. And divine order for me means the order in which you have chosen for things to be in your life. Learn to rejoice when people walk out of your life. Understand that if they're walking out, something more amazing is probably going to be walking in really soon. You got to understand when the universe is making room for what is meant for you. Basic number 7, understand your self-worth. I told myself a long time ago, in every version of everything I've ever studied, from being Buddhist for many years to converting to Christianity to now my 12-year-old son who wants to have a bar mitzvah next year has asked me, can we convert to Judaism? Just for a year. But in all of those conversions and potential conversions, I've learned, that we've been created in a certain likeness. They say God created us in his likeness. And so I ask myself, when I look at myself in the mirror, what do I see? Do I see a person who is worthy of considering herself being made in the likeness of something just so truly amazing? If that's not what I see, then I've got more work to do, because I want to be worthy, not only worthy of that thought process, but worthy of being on this stage, worthy of being in this room, worthy of getting the call from Annalisa every single time she's doing one of these summits. I say to her every time when I'm looking at the other women who are speaking, are you sure? are you sure you want me for this one? Because I can't release anything that compares to what these women are going to have to say. And just about every time I end up not talking about my business, not talking about my path, but just talking about being a woman and remembering that you are a woman and remembering what an amazing thing that is and all the beauty that comes with it. And just remembering that if you stick to who you are, once you figure out who you're meant to be and what you're meant to have, and that there's always more for you, you make it to 100 years old, and there's gonna be more. Then you've covered my 7 basics anyway, and I hope some of you or all of you will adopt any few of those basics that you might think are gonna be important in your journey. Thank you.